So, hey, we're back with Dr. Jim Weinstein. If you have not watched part one, you got to watch part one first. So we don't have to go through this, but Jim is getting ready to walk the Appalachian Trail, hike the Appalachian Trail starting next week. All right, so Jim, we kind of left off on mental resilience challenges. One thing that I didn't think about, what's your biggest fear about hiking the Appalachian Trail?
That's a good one. I will tell you. So I'll just be honest. So a couple years ago, I got COVID really bad. It changed my life. The version of COVID that I got messed with my lungs, and it took me from being an elite athlete to not being an elite athlete anymore. I've still not been able to exercise in the high intensity range. Anytime I do anything that requires, that peak, VO2 max type stuff, like I end up very asthmatic immediately, and I'm on inhaler and some other things to sort of meter things out. And I found a good level playing field to just exist, so I don't feel like I'm always asthmatic. But it's changed things, and so I'm a little, there are times when I feel asthmatic, and it's not an asthma attack per se, but it probably feels a lot like with somebody who's having a panic attack. Like I just can't move air the way I normally move it, and it's just disconcerting. It's scary. It usually lasts for a few hours. I have to stop and rest and sort of let whatever's going on in my body go on. The physicians have never been able to figure it out. We've tried 1,000 things. I think it's just the long-term effects of this bad COVID that I had back in 2020, and so I'm afraid that I'll have some of those bouts at the worst times. I'm in my head, I'm already prepared that there's going to be some times when like I'm going to have to take breaks because I'm going to have some breathing challenges. But I'm afraid that like it'll happen in the middle of a snowstorm on the peak of a mountain when now is not the time to have that problem. Like I need to get out, I need to get shelter. I need to not be worried about breathing. So I'm going to try to, stay on top of those things. I've got, my emergency meds. I've got my albuterol and things that, can buy me whatever emergency time I need. I've not had any like crazy serious or severe bouts in years. I feel very confident. My physicians are very confident I'll be okay with this, but that's just one of those like underlying fears. So I think some medical issues are probably my biggest worry. Honestly, the other one is just missing my family. I'm really worried that the thing that's going to crack me is missing my dogs and missing my family. That's one that breaks a lot of people. But I've just got everyone around me, from my friends and family, have been very supportive of me doing this, and so I think that'll be a big help.
Yeah, but we've done 6-month deployments.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that you're going to be able to handle that part of it.
Mentally, I'm thinking a lot of this like my deployment to Iraq. I'm just, I there were a lot of ways I stayed connected with my family while I was in Iraq, and I'm just going to use a lot of those same mental tactics. But you have to like the way we were successful is we do disassociate. Like I'm sort of stepping out of the family for a while, and I realize like mentally I'm going to have to do some of that. I'm not going to be there to pay bills. I'm not going to be there to do the taxes this year. I'm not going to be like all these things that I've had to prep ahead of time. Just because I'm not going to be around, but. I'm confident. I was reading a book about a guy who, he had a family member die and a daughter get married. There were 1,000 reasons he should have come off trail to go to those things, but he made a mental pact with himself that if he was going to be successful, it didn't matter what happened. He was going to stay on trail. And I don't know that if my family member was getting married, first off, that'd be really surprising. Not expecting anyone to get married in a couple of years, so we're good there. But what if a family member died, on the trail? Like how close of a family member do they need to be to pull me off trail? I don't know. There's a lot of things that could make this unsuccessful. I'm just hopeful that none of those things happen in the course of the next few months.
All right. Well, let's go back to something more, positive.
Yeah.
You talked to Brian a little bit. Brian asked earlier on, but nutrition, recovery, and your day. So in your mind right now, walk us through
what I'm going to eat in a day. Yeah.
Well, just kind of like, let's say it's a Monday. So walk us through Monday morning to Tuesday morning.
Yeah. Sure.
What do you think? What's your plan?
Yeah. So first thing in the morning. And if any of these are of interest and you want to see them, I can step away from the camera really quick and grab them. I have them on the table behind me. But my breakfast food will be overnight oats with a packet of Carnation Essentials, which used to be called Carnation Instant Breakfast. So I basically just take this overnight oats and pour it in my little container with the Carnation Instant Breakfast, and then I'll fill it with water, and I could close it. And in the morning, it'll be edible and ready. Or I can, in the morning, I will boil a little water to make coffee. I'll just put the boiling water in there, and it's ready in a few minutes. And I usually put too much water in there so that I get extra hydration and I can drink it. So then what I do is I let it sit and I pack everything up. And then the last thing I do is drink that, and then wash it out with some water, drink that, and head out on trail. And that usually for me will be somewhere between 7 and 8 a.m. in the morning in the wintertime, and maybe earlier once the sun starts getting up a little earlier. About 2 hours later, 3 hours later, I will have a second breakfast. That's what they call it on the trail, where I probably will have like a big protein bar. I'm a big fan of the Gatorade protein bars. I just like the taste and they pack really well. But I have a couple varieties of protein bars. I'll eat that while I'm walking. So I've got 3 or 4 different types of protein bars, SAS protein bars. I've got a few other versions. And I'll eat one of those while I'm walking. That'll be a few hundred more calories. And then I'll also try to make sure that I stay on top of my hydration. So I'll do at least 1 liter, maybe 2 before lunch. And I've got some electrolytes in the water, both to replace sweat in the summertime and to keep my water from freezing in the wintertime. And then lunch, I've got a few options for lunch. My favorite one right now, the Starkist Tuna Creation Bowls. It's basically this like foil pack, but it's got tuna, but it's also got like quinoa or barley or rice and some vegetables. And I put that into a burrito shell, and I just eat that for lunch. But I also have almond butter and peanut butter and a few other things that I can squeeze onto a burrito shell, not with the tuna, separately, a different lunch, and eat that. And then the third lunch option that I've played around with after breakfast, when I clean out that container, if I put in some noodles, I'm a big fan of the Momofuku noodles, but also they're a little bit like just rice noodles. You put them in there with some with a spice packet or a bouillon cube, and fill it with water. It's cold water, but it'll sit. By the time I get to lunch, it's the noodles are soft and it's edible, and I can drink and eat it real quick. That'll be a lunch. Afternoon, we'll have another bar. Usually in the afternoon, I want more carbs, and so it'll be something like a big Sir bar or Cliff bar, or my Gorp nuts and things. And then for dinner, I've got a couple options. I think this is where people get too much processed food on the trail. It's easy to just stop off in a gas station and pick up, a gas station, food to serve for dinner. But I'm going to try to stick with healthier options if I can. There's a few low processed, dried meals out there. Gnome meals and Nomad meals both make some good ones. So I will try to stay on top of eating one of those camping meals. But I've got options to make my own stuff too. I can get a Knorr's Classic and fill it with water and some spices and a tuna packet or a chicken packet and get my protein in. And then, after dinner, I have a tea bag, to just kind of wash everything down with a cup of tea, and then bedtime and start it all over again.
Wow. So hydration, the food part I get, because, it's easily packed, or much easier to pack than gallons of water. And I'm assuming, you're going through liters and liters of water, in an 18-hour day where you're constantly trying to stay hydrated. But where do you get the water? How do you supply the water?
So the Appalachian Trail has a lot of places where you can get water. The trail provides, right? So it crosses streams. There's pipes that come out of springs. They are infested with giardia. And so, you really shouldn't drink the water straight up. You have to treat it. And so, if you think back to, your Army days or early camping days in the Scouts, you can put one of those iodine tablets into your water, but it tastes like crap. Or you can filter it. So I've got a filter. It's a pretty neat little Katahdin squeeze filter. I basically, fill water into my dirty. I have a dirty sack essentially, and then I squeeze it through the filter, and it ends up in my 1 liter bottle, and that's my clean water. And I carry 2 1 liter bottles, so I can carry up to 2 liters of water. I have a 500 cc Nalgene that I use that can also have clean water. I use that mainly to put boiling water in at night in my sleeping bag to keep me warm. But it can also carry water, and I can also carry water in that sack. I can carry another liter of water, of dirty water, if I had to, if the trail was going to be dry for a while. There's a really neat app called Far Out, which basically anyone who's hiking the trail has this app. And when I pass a water location, if the water is dry, I'll put a note in the app. So you can quickly see, like, if you're going to have a dry stretch by people who have hiked before you. We sort of, hikers sort of keep care with each other. But because I'm leaving so early, I'm going to be fine. There's going to be plenty of water. I'm going to be able to hike on 2 liters in a day. In the summertime, when I did my shakedown hike, I went through 5 liters in one day. It was so hot. And I struggled to find water a few times. I was a little bit worried. In fact, we came across a guy who was like with his kids, and he was like in seriously bad shape. I gave him, a liter of water because I knew there was water coming up. But yeah, it can be a problem. I will be okay because I'm starting so early. But folks that are hiking more in the summertime, they do need to be wary about water and try not to get sick by filtering it. But basically in a typical day, on the dry side, 2 liters, and on the higher side, 4 to 5 liters in a day.
So have you determined what your caloric intake will be and what your macronutrient breakdown is?
I haven't paid too much attention to the macronutrients other than to say that a lot of people get ketotic on the trail because they don't eat enough. And then they have problems with not eating enough protein. And so it's funny because I've read a lot of books and they're like, I got ketotic because I wasn't eating enough protein. And I'm like, no, that's not how that works. But from a science and nutrition standpoint, and for your listeners, ketosis, will happen because you're not eating enough food in general, and it's just not, and typically not enough carbs. So protein's important, and I will try to get close to 100 grams in a day as a minimum. But it is hard on the trail to get that. I need to be careful because a lot of quick, easy foods are all carbs and no protein, right? Candy and bun, the buns in the gas station and stuff. So protein for me is important, and I don't want to eat a lot of crappy processed protein. So I'm not big on dried, teriyaki flavored, meats that you get, in the Slim Jims and things. Like I want healthy protein, and so that's going to be a little more challenging for me. But I'm going to keep some notes on what worked and what didn't, and I will certainly share those with you guys. And if I need a care package of some healthy protein, Chuck, I'll let you know where to mail it to.
I'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
Have you thought about like whey protein supplementation?
So I've thought about it, and I've actually got, so I have an emergency food pack. It's not very heavy, but it's got some complex carbs, it's got some simple carbs, and it's got some a little protein powder in there. It doesn't weigh very much, and it's going to always be with me. And if God forbid I'm short on food or short on calories or just something's not right, or I come across somebody that needs something, I'll have that. The problem with the whey powder is honestly, like, I probably could use it. I could probably put it in my my supply packs, and it may not be a bad idea to maybe go that route. I didn't practice it, and I was doing well enough. But if I get tired of tuna and chicken, then I'll have to come up with another plan. And I think whey protein would have to be supplemented, would have to be part of that. I don't know that I could do it otherwise. Keep in mind, though, that every 3 or 4 days I'm going to hit a town. And if I'm like really malnourished, like, I'm going to go to the burger joint or the pizza joint and I'm going to get some real food. And so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I just didn't, I was thinking with an ISO, with a whey being to where it's, so easy to carry.
Mm-hmm.
And, Brian will tell you that him and I are on almost 250 grams of protein on a daily basis. And when you start talking about 100, that's what I had for breakfast.
Yeah. But that's the minimum amount. So I'm weight is important to me. So I need to get the minimum number of calories, the minimum number of everything to succeed. And so I think for me, if I could just hit that 100 line, I'll be fine. I'm not looking to get built in bulk. I'm just not looking to break down. But if I need to push it to 150 or more, I'm prepared to do that. And, I, just like you mentioned, I know strategies that I could get there pretty quickly. I'll need some help from some folks to ship me some things, but it's very doable. Let me make a note. It's something interesting for you. So the trail's been around since like the 1920s. And one of the first guy who thru-hiked the entire Appalachian Trail was a guy by the name of Earl Schaefer. He was coming back from World War II. and he was the first guy to put the whole thing together. Didn't have any planning, didn't have this app, didn't have, the
Right.
ultralight gear. He didn't have the way for and then fast forward, there's a great story about a great book about Grandma Gatewood. I think she may be one of the oldest people to hike the trail. I don't know that she's got the record for the oldest. But there's a wonderful book about her. She's like this, 60, 70, and eventually 80-year-old grandmother with a burlap sack, and just was sought out and started hiking. And eventually she became a phenomenon. People were coming to visit her on the trail because, they heard about this by the time she made it up into the northeast. News reporters wanted to see her. And but again, she she was able to do this by supplying herself in the towns and by the trail people that are so kind along the way. I think I'm going to be okay. If Grandma Gatewood can do it, and Earl Schaefer could do it in the 40s, then I should be able to do it. And if I can't, I got no excuses. So, well, I'll happily come on here and tell you what happened and share my sobs and sorrows. But I won't have any really good excuses if those guys could do it.
Have you, along those lines, have you figured out? Have you kind of calculated what? So you figured out what kind of caloric intake you need to achieve to maintain, but have you estimated that? I'm assuming you're going to be, at some point, through this journey in a caloric deficit and down a few pounds, and and you mentioned in the previous podcast about being as healthy, if not healthier, than when you started. Have you considered any of that? Have you thought about how you're planning that out in terms of what a strategy to make that happen is?
Yeah, so I have thought about it, and I put some lines in the sand. So I'm comfortable with losing 20 pounds. So I started out at 220. I'm now down to 200 as I set out on the trail. My old race weight, like when I was healthiest racing my bicycle, was at 180 pounds. And I know it's easy to say, Jim, you gained 40 pounds. Yes, that's what command will do to you in the military over the years. But so I'm comfortable losing 20 pounds, getting down to 180. But I would think that I'm doing something wrong if I lost more than that, and it would need to be at a very slow rate. I don't expect to lose 1 pound to 2 pounds a week. It would need to be less weight than that, or I'd get concerned. The way I figured out, my food plan was during my practice hikes in South Georgia. I was tracking my energy expenditure, and so I was estimating my energy expenditure on the high side, and trying to match that with calories as best I can, and making sure the protein was close enough to, trying to get 30%, probably ending up more like 20-25% protein. And on the hilliest, hardest days, I was burning 5,000 calories easy, which is like a century ride, on a bicycle, only I was hiking for 8 hours, mainly because the intensity is a lot lower. And so, I think from a nutrition standpoint, because the intensity is so low, I can rely on fat intake, a lot of good healthy fats, in ways that you wouldn't necessarily have like an athlete, like a track athlete, or even a runner, or even an Ironman athlete, on a single day event doing. But if an athlete came to you and said, I want to run an Ironman every day for the next 30 days to set a world record, then suddenly you'd be saying, okay, like we're going to need to figure out like how to get you 6,000 or more calories in a day every day. You're not going to be able to do that without, talking about fat in some way. Right. So, that for me, like, making sure that I've got healthy fats coming in is going to go a long way in making sure that I get calories. And then I'm going to be watching my weight as a marker. I've got a plan to get a lot of blood drawn and do some things about midway through to make sure that I'm hitting my, my vitamin D levels are staying good, and my vitamin levels are good. My iron levels are good. And I'll correct if I need to. Maybe something like this, Brian, is just unhealthy. Maybe it's just really hard to get to the end and be healthier than when I started. Maybe I'll just have to, refix on some things, but that'll be part of the story. Part of the journey.
Well, it'll be fascinating to see the end result of that. You have a leg up, I think, on most people with the dietary background, and I think that's one of the obviously that's going to be one of the keys to maintaining that health, and it'll be interesting to see the end result.
Yep. Even with all the nutrition background in the world, when my physician checked a whole lot of labs before, just as I'm getting ready to leave, and I had a low vitamin D level, which surprised the heck out of me because, I spend time outside, but I just, wintertime, southern, in the northern hemisphere in the wintertime, and just spending a lot of time indoors, it's easy to, and I don't drink milk. And so it is easy to for a male to have problems with vitamin D. Iron was fine, but it's not uncommon. Especially as we get into our mid 40s and older. I also have less skin showing to the sun now. With this beard cover and everything. So that too, making less vitamin D. So I'm gonna try to stay on top of my nutrition as best as possible.
I think we've talked about you should be on 5,000 IU's of vitamin D and 600 milligrams of calcium. I don't know. I for some reason I think that conversation occurred at some point in our relationship.
I get plenty of calcium from my Tums. But I definitely need some vitamin D. So I've fixed that. I've got vitamin D in other sources. And by the way, there's a lot of vitamin D in some of the fish that I'll be eating. So more of on the trail. So I think I'll get plenty of vitamin D once things get going.
So a question about just from a nutritionist perspective, what about your gut bio? How do you think that's going to be?
That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. I don't know. When I did my 2 shakedown hikes, I was quite regular. I mean, I'm just a little TMI information, but pooping in the woods is part of the experience. And I didn't have any problems during the shakedown hikes. But I am, it's very uncomfortable if you get constipated and things not flowing through, and because your gut microbiome is all jacked up because you're eating all these preserved foods. By the way, that's part of the reason why I'm trying to stay away from that crap. Is I feel like my gut microbiome is like hitting on all cylinders right now. I eat a lot of fermented foods. I eat healthy and clean. All of a sudden, if I'm eating a bunch of preserved foods, your gut microbiome changes. And so that's part of me trying to be healthy. And I think maybe I'll be able to preserve some of it along the way. Maybe if they sell kombucha, at the grocery stores, I'll grab one, but I can't stand that shit. So I'd like to say I like it, but
I was gonna say maybe some kimchi or
sauerkraut or yeah.
Sauerkraut. I don't know. How about some? Are you messing around with any pine tar?
It's also possible that some of the foods that I got in my bag will become fermented. I will tell you, I'm going to try to pick up fresh fruits and vegetables in towns and just carry them. And I'm not afraid to eat an apple with brown spots, and that actually gives you some additional bacteria and things. So.
Oh no, I'm a big fan of if you're eating local.
Yep.
Local produce will basically balance your gut bio for the location that you're at. So I mean that's
Now, I will tell you that there are a lot
and
of
a little bit of dirt.
Yeah. There are also a lot of good microbreweries along the way, and maybe I have some good home brew, which gives me some additional, bacteria. I don't know.
Wow, I can't.
Fermentation is fermentation.
Yeah, exactly right.
But Brian, can you imagine sitting in a microbrewery and Grizzly Adams here comes in with his pack and orders a beer? It'd be like, we're out of here.
Two beers.
You go log that in Macro Factor for your 400 or 240 calories.
Yep.
So, all right. So one of the things that Brian and I have talked about on the show before is the importance of recovery. And you kind of made the, what'd you call the days that you're not in zeros?
Yeah, zeros and Neros. Zero day would be just you're not hiking that day. And a Nero day is you're just doing like 3 or 4 hours or 2 or 3 miles, way less than you normally would do, but you keep progress moving. I don't have any of them planned per se. I'm going to listen to my body. I haven't gotten to the point in any of my practice hikes where I needed one. But I only hiked for a week. My practice hikes weren't longer than a week. And so I don't know when my body's going to start breaking down and I'm going to be like, you know what, my knees hurt, my back hurts, my neck hurts, I'm bored, I'm angry. Today's the day for a zero. I don't know how often that's going to happen, but I'm prepared. But I also got to be careful. You take too many zeros. They call it being stuck in a vortex. If you end up in like a good hostel or in a small town that just you're driving, having a great time, and they've got a bar and they've got like a scene going on and everything. All of a sudden, you're there for a week, And so I need to be careful that I'm kind of commit to trying not to stay anywhere for more than a day unless the weather holds me somewhere. I'm prepared to to not kill myself by freezing in the wilderness. And so if I see a couple days of just brutal weather, I'll probably stay in town, right, for a couple extra days and not risk it. And so there's the possibility that I'll use that for recovery as well.
So based on that, do you have any, kind of planned, I'm going to stay at a hostel or a hotel, I'm going to eat at a restaurant? Do you have anything like that planned along the way, or is this everything to be winged?
No, so you know me, I'm a planner, right? So there are a lot of people that just go and they wing it and the trail provides. But I plan too much. So I had recently read a book called Platinum Hiking the Appalachian Trail. And over, by the way, ask me about blazing in a second too. Don't forget about trail names and blazing. I got a story for you. All right. So in this Platinum book, they talk about how to hike the Appalachian Trail, staying at the best bed and breakfasts and the best hotels and eat at the best restaurants all along the way. And there are some places where like there's no 5-star, there's just no 3-star, like you're hitting the 1-star, that's the best you can get. But so I went through this book and they have like the best of, and so I highlighted the places you got to eat at, the places you got to stay, and the mileage markers. And so I made a spreadsheet of like the things Jim wants to do along the trail. Like I really want to spend a little time in Damascus and see the Appalachian Trail headquarters. And but there's also like a couple of restaurants I want to eat at along the way in these small towns. But I put the best of on this spreadsheet, and I've got it with me in like a little micro card in my book. And it's on mileage. So when I get to mile 280, I'll know that there's an incredibly good ice cream store here in town. Definitely stop at it. Or that town in Kent has an amazing bed and breakfast. Don't stay at the hiker hostel. Stay at the bed and breakfast. Pay a little extra money. So I've got a list of like things I want to do along the trail, but I do plan on winging it quite a bit. Like I'm just gonna hike from sunrise to sunset. I'm not gonna plan where I'm going to stop every day after the first week or two. So for the first week or two, I have it like scoped out. But after that, I'm going to wake up in the morning and say, okay, what's 15 to 20 miles away from here that I could camp at? And I'm going to look at like my primary option, and I'm probably going to have like a backup option that's a little bit shorter in case something goes on. I'm just not feeling good. And I'm just going to do that every day. And basically that's how I'm going to sort of move forward.
That kind of sounds like glamping to me.
Well, but keep in mind, I'll probably be camping 80% of the way. And by the way, so about every 10 miles on the Appalachian Trail is a hut. And somebody's going to say it's actually 9.7. It's around 10 miles, but it could be between 8 and 15. But there's always there's a hut. The hut is usually like 3-sided. There's a few that look like houses, but most of them are like these 3-sided shelters that you can basically, some of them are 2-story, but you can set up inside these things. And so that's basically going to be my stopping points. I'll try to get 1 or 2 of those done a day.
All right. So what you said something about blazing, or?
Oh yeah. So all right. So as I was doing research on the Appalachian Trail, they have these terms. One of them is white blazing. So there's a blaze, a white painted mark on a tree or road or rock. Every couple hundred feet, and that's the mark of the Appalachian Trail. In fact, the very first blaze is on Springer Mountain. And when we started there on one of our practice hikes, I missed taking a picture of the first white blaze. And so I hiked back like 2 miles to go get a picture of that first white blaze. And that's how I ended up getting my trail name, Blaze One. So people on the trail calls me Blaze One because A, I hike fast, and B, I made a big deal about getting a photo of that first blaze. But who knows? Maybe my trail name will change over time, but to Grizzly Adams or something. But there are other ways to follow the trail. So if you follow the trail traditionally, you go the white blaze all the way north. But if you blue blaze it, Then you are going off trail to go to the local summit. So as you're hiking down the trail, there'll be a blue side trail that might take you to the top of a local summit. It might be a half a mile away, it might be 3 miles away. So it would significantly lengthen the Appalachian Trail. So some people will blue blaze the trail. There are some people that like to actually aqua blaze the trail, where along the trail they will raft or they will canoe as much as they can of it. And then my favorite one that I learned about is pink blazing the trail, which apparently if you hike the trail and are looking for a female trail companion, or if you're a female looking for a male trail companion, you are called pink blazing the trail. I won't be pink blazing.
You will not be. You better not be.
No,
pink blazing
Families.
trail.
I'm a happily married guy, but but I thought that was always a funny one. And there are a couple other blazing types as well. But most people traditionally, you got to follow the white blazes if you want to be a traditionalist and say you hike the AT.
All right, so we're coming up on the end of this, and I have one question for you that I'm going to give Brian the last word on this one. Okay. So we've talked about this before. How are you going to document it? Are you going to journal, photos, video, live stream, TikTok? What are you going to do?
Yeah, so I'll try to keep a Facebook page updated. I'm going to try to upload videos to my YouTube channel. I'm going to try to write some stories along the way on Substack if I'm able to. And that's, I'm going to have my Garmin link that's going to tell you where I'm at. That's about it. I mean, part of this is about me disconnecting a little bit too. Yeah.
All right, because my plan is to at some point in time meet you someplace on the trail. Yeah. I'll do the shed to shed, and then I'll Uber back.
Sure,
Brian, what do you?
I'm still trying to get my head around all of this. I guess the one question I have is what's next? Very strong indication with Race Across America, hiking the trail, the whole 9 yards. There's got to be, okay, what's the next challenge for you once you're done?
Hey, Brian, I actually know the question to this, or the answer to this. You're going to love it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know what the next challenge is.
You and I had a discussion about the other day.
Which one is that?
Jim wants to start track racing.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, I didn't see that as a challenge, though. I guess it is a challenge. What next? So
not after months of hiking, no.
Well, I don't honestly, I don't know what the next challenge is going to be, but I know I'm going to need to do something, and I want to continue to be an athlete as best I can. I talked about some of my health problems. Don't even remember if it was this episode or the last one, but I'd like to get into track racing a little bit. My son has been doing great on road racing, and at this point, he's not even in my shadow. I would be in his shadow, and so I think I'd like to do some track racing. I'm not zero experienced. I have a couple days on the track over the years, but I think I could be pretty good at it. I mean, Chuck's seen me race. If I could get a semblance of my old self and my weight will be really good at the end of this this endeavor here. I'll be ready to do a little bit of track racing. And unfortunately, I think I'm in like the most competitive masters track at 49 years old. So maybe I need to wait until I'm 70 before I do it. I don't know, but we'll be having a conversation about how does Jim get into track racing after I'm done with the trail.
Nice.
I know a great track coach.
I was going to say, do you guys know anything about that?
We might be able to help you out on that.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I don't want to say I'm envious.
No, nobody. Yeah,
because it's
curious. You can be hyper curious. Hyper curious.
I like living vicariously through you at this point. So yeah, I'm perfectly happy.
I think this is absolutely amazing. I most folks don't know, but I've been following Jim's preparation. I hope to say I've been helping in Jim's preparation of this the last 6 months. And we will definitely, when we get a chance, get you back on, have more discussions. I will meet you out on the trail at some point in time, if nothing more, and just buy you a dinner and sit from a different table.
Yeah, I will eat that whole pizza. Yes, Chuck. I thank you so much to you. I have not missed a training day in the last 4 months. And what those days look like were put into realization in large part to some of the advice you've given me, and I shared with with some of my strength coaching friends at Mississippi State as we put a good plan together. Thank you very much for that help, and I hope that I can reward you with a picture of me on Mount Katahdin and tell you that all that was what helped me get to the finish line. So,
well, I'll let you know that a lot of the strength training program that I talked to you about, I got it from the other side of you. So
yeah,
from Brian.
Yeah.
So it takes a village to raise an idiot. I mean, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, none of us are terribly like normal or in any way, shape, or form anyway. So I think that's probably the important thing. But Jim, it was great to finally put a face on the name, and looking forward to hearing about your exploits, and wish you the best of luck with it.
I'm
Brian,
very proud of you, brother. I'm very proud
thank
of
you,
brother.
Brian, you are a legend. Chuck, you are a legend. I hope after I'm done with this, maybe I can slide into into the category that you guys I regularly operate in. I've really enjoyed talking with you guys. It's nice to meet you, and next time we talk, it'll be out on the trail somewhere.
Fantastic. Have fun with it. Enjoy it.
Talk to you on the trail.
Bye, guys.
Take care.